The 2022 NFL Draft is right around the corner, and I'm excited to announce that I'll be covering Day 2 of the draft live this Friday alongside Windy City Gridiron's Jeff Berkus, Jacob Infante, and more. It'll be a Chicago Bears focused show with tons of analysis and, most importantly, instant tape review of whoever the Bears choose at whatever slot they choose them. It should be a great time, so set your watch for 5:30 this Friday and we'll see you there. And speaking of the draft, let's talk about Alec Pierce, the 21-year-old wide receiver that just led the Cincinnati Bearcats in receiving. What kind of player is he? What teams does he fit with? What draft pick range makes sense for him? I'll answer these questions and more in this breakdown, so without further ado, let's dive right into it. If there's one thing you should know about Pierce, it's that he's a burner on the outside. If you play him close to the line and don't land your jam, he's gone, and he'll take 40 plus yards with him. Pierce is fast, like 4.41 40-yard dash fast, and at 6'3" and 211 pounds, he's a rare athlete on the football field. In some cases, he doesn't even need to make a move and just runs right past his corner. Suffice to say, you can't teach that. But Pierce isn't just a raw ball of athleticism either, he's surprisingly crafty at the line of scrimmage. If you watch his first few steps, which is known by the way as a receiver's release off the line, you'll see Pierce does a great job of either forcing his corner to turn their hips early or drawing out his corner's jam. Either way, that stops the corner's momentum, and with a quick move in the other direction, Pierce can generate some pretty ridiculous separation downfield. That corner on the ground, by the way, that's Marcus Jones, who's slated to go somewhere in the 3rd or 4th round this year, so between Pierce's work against him, Notre Dame, and even Alabama, you can't say Pierce's success was all a product of lesser competition. He's a bona fide NFL deep threat with enough savvy in his releases to eventually blow right by you, and that speed is something his defenders have to honor every time they line up against him. Which, speaking of, let's talk about the effect Pierce's speed has on his other routes. Pierce's deep strike capability forces corners into all sorts of no-win scenarios as they try to rein him in, meaning sometimes they preemptively sink too far deep in their zones and leave space for dig routes underneath. Here's another example of a similar play with a deep curl route against Alabama, or sometimes they'll overplay Pierce's outside shoulder and allow easy breaks inside. Either way, the space Pierce can generate on these shallower routes is obvious and only serves to compound the defense's conundrum. Do they play things safe and take the deep ball away, knowing it leads to yards underneath? Or do they press Pierce at the line and risk bigger plays downfield? When he's on his game, there's no easy answer. There's plenty more I could say about Pierce too, but for the sake of brevity, I'll just mention a few more positives. He's competitive at the catch point and makes full use of his 78-inch wingspan both in body positioning on back shoulder fades in the end zone and when stretching out for overthrown deep balls. He's a willing, high-effort blocker in the run game, though there's always room for improvement there, and his speed makes him an effective decoy as he can often draw extra defenders and set his teammates up for one-on-ones. There's a lot to like about Pierce's game, but he's definitely not a perfect receiver. So before we get carried away, let's make sure we talk about his problem areas too. For as fast as Pierce is, it can occasionally feel like he's all gas, no brakes. He'll occasionally struggle to keep his balance when braking, leading to slow cuts and even the rare downfield spill. This sounds a little nitpicky, I know, but every offense wants their receivers to get in and out of their breaks as quickly as possible. Slow cuts allow the defender time to get back into the play and, most importantly, force the quarterback to either wait on the throw, therefore inviting pressure, or just messes up the timing outright and creates a bad-looking miss. Pierce is a former walk-on whose first full season starting at receiver was this year, 2021, so maybe he could learn to sink his hips more consistently as he grows, but relatively poor agility testing suggests this could be a long-term problem for him. We'll have to wait and see. Also, though Pierce is 6'3" and 210 pounds, he's significantly affected by quality contact. A good jam will either disrupt his route outright or knock him off balance and hurt his top speed, allowing his corner to keep up with him. Now, most college corners can't land a decent jam, so against everybody but Notre Dame and Alabama, this really wasn't an issue. Pierce actually beat quite a few bad jams throughout the AAC, but suffice it to say that Alabama-grade corners are the norm in the NFL, so Pierce will have to improve here at the next level. If his future opponents can shut him down with a decent punch, he'll struggle. But even with Pierce's flaws, it's important to remember just how deadly his one-trick pony skill, speed off the line, makes him, and his game against Notre Dame is a great example of that. The Golden Domers held Pierce to modest gains throughout their first half, but 2 mistakes in the second half became 89 receiving yards in a hurry, and before they knew it, he'd hauled in 144 total yards. If Pierce even beats you once, it's gonna hurt, but if he gets on a roll, watch out. So all in all, Pierce is a useful player with some clear growth areas, but where does that mean he fits in the modern NFL? To find out, we need to look at a current NFL player that's also a large-bodied burner with lateral agility issues, and the player I picked might surprise you. Let's take a look at the Seahawks' DK Metcalf and you'll see what I mean. Now, obviously, I'm not saying Pierce and Metcalf are the same player. Metcalf is much, much more physical. But DK plays a role I think Pierce can emulate. He's an X-receiver, meaning he lines up on the line of scrimmage and often faces press, and he's his team's primary vertical threat, creating a lot of space underneath for his superstar teammate, Tyler Lockett. I won't dive too deep into Seahawks scheme specifics here, but this role fits Pierce perfectly. Since vertical X threats only need a few routes in their toolkit to succeed, think goes, curls, slants, and digs, Pierce's lack of agility shouldn't inhibit him from making an impact within this framework. A few other names playing similar roles, in case the Metcalf comparison feels too wild to you, are Buffalo's Gabriel Davis, who's paired with Stephon Diggs, and the Rams' Van Jefferson, who's paired with the Z receiver in Cooper Kupp. Again, a framework Pierce could look to emulate. If you pair Pierce with a good Z receiver teammate and a QB that likes throwing it deep, I think he'll make noise at the next level. But which teams fit that profile? Personally, I think his best fit is with Chicago, who needs an X receiver next to Darnell Mooney unless they plan on starting Equanimeous St. Brown, and have Justin Fields, who we know likes to throw it deep. But the Browns, the Jaguars, the now Tyreek-less Chiefs, and the Eagles make a lot of sense too. Maybe even the Packers, though as a Bears fan, I hope he goes anywhere else. Overall, I came away from this film study really liking Alec Pierce. He's not perfect, but there's a clear way he wins at the NFL level, and that is more than a lot of draft prospects can say. If your team needs a vertical threat or an X receiver and has a mid to late second or third round pick to spare, Alec Pierce is a name I'd definitely keep in mind. Thanks so much for watching this. Life got the best of me this draft season and I didn't get quite as much as I wanted out, but things should be settling down for me over the next couple weeks, so I'm hoping to get more content created, especially as we get into analytical season post-draft, and I'm excited about a lot of the things I can put together. Again, make sure to mark your calendars for Friday night. We'll kick off at 5:30 and we'll go till the end, which will be a long stream to say the least. But we'll be right there with you for Bears analysis top to bottom, me, Jeff Burkus, Jacob Infante, and whoever else from the Windy City Gridiron universe that we can bring along. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like. You have no idea how much that helps. And comment below the next thing or player that you want broken down. It can be a concept, can be a player. Justin Fields is obviously on the way, and I'll see if I can't get to it over the next couple of months. Either way, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for bearing with me, and I will see you next time.